Hey guys, how are you? Good, good. We're here to do a reading. I'm just doing one. Um, Technically, I will probably do Gemini soon for my Gemini. But I'm just gonna do one. Someone doesn't want me to do it. I can tell because the phone has dropped twice now. This is my old phone, so deal with it. Just kidding, but deal with it. I'm gonna filter the phone because my guides have said for now on I need to start filtering things. I'm sorry, you guys. I'm house hunting right now, and it's been hell. It's not. It's just been exhausting. And my blood pressure has been really low lately, so you might notice I'm gonna get rosy cheeks. That happens when my blood pressure. I just talked with my dad and stepmom over the phone, and my stepmom is a little complicated to deal with, so yes. So if my mood fluctuates, my blood pressure will fluctuate, therefore my cheeks, yeah. So we're gonna tap in. This is gonna obviously be for my favorites, my Scorpionics. I'm just kidding, of course, but this is gonna be for my Scorpio rising and Scorpio moon. As we know that we always do them both together. Why? Because you guys know I'm a Scorpio moon. We're gonna start with my two Alice decks. Just kidding. So I have one Alice deck, one fairy deck, like, and then one circus deck, which I haven't used. That's one of my personal ones. I do it myself. It's more oracle. So this is going to be Alice. Can you please wait? So some of you are just needing to work on trusting yourself, knowing that you can do it. Okay, so this is going to be Alice. This is going to be for my Scorpio risings. I don't know if one of you is crying, but I'm getting all teary-eyed. Oh my gosh. What is going on? She's already like trying to like shove things at me. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if some of you are dealing with people. I don't know if you are dealing with people that don't want you to trust your... Okay, so I've dealt with this in my life. We continuously deal, and if it gets loud all of a sudden in the background, it always happens when I'm trying to do a movie. I'm sorry. It is just what it is, right? Okay, so sometimes if you are someone that... I watched a really beautiful movie, and it was called like The Secret Garden. Oh my gosh, like I'm crying, my nose is running. I feel like someone was just bawling or something. Like, I don't know what is going on. It makes me really sad. Okay, not literally, but it makes me sad that someone feels this way. So, okay, here's the deal. Scorpio risings, before we jump in, because Alice is already jumping on the bandwagon. Scorpio moons and risings. Remember, the energy can be both ways. If it doesn't fit, don't make the boot or glass slipper fit. Because if you put a glass slipper on and it breaks because it is not made for you, it will cut open your foot. Will it not? It will hurt you. So in other words, do not bring something and keep doing something. That's what it is. So some of you need to hear this. Stop doing something over and over and over and over, expecting it to change. No. Am I going to say that it's going to be easier? No. Am I going to say that what the hell is going on? Am I going to say that it's ever going to be fair in the world? No. But There's one thing that I do know is that when watching this movie, I watched it today, which I watched because I had seen it when I was little, and honestly, I like barely remembered the movie. And I was just kind of like, oh my gosh, like, first of all, it was beautiful. It's called The Secret Garden. I think that's what it's called. It's on Hulu. And it's about this little girl. It's actually a really sad movie. And then I was kind of like, why is my family letting me watch these sad movies when I was a kid? But I don't know if I just wanted to watch it and they let me. But I watched it as a child. And I just turned it on. Oh my gosh, I'm like crying and everything. I can't even talk. I told you, it will just start getting loud. This is how it works. It's been quiet all day. But if I bawl too, I don't know what's going on, you guys. So this little boy basically has a dad that's so paranoid about them that this kid ended up being a hermit, such a hermit that they basically live in their bed their whole life. They think they actually have a sick condition because the dad lost the mom, so it could be obviously vice versa, you know what I mean? And the mom ended up dying. And the dad was so paranoid about losing something else, again, because it's one of those things that needs things, right? So in other words, kind of like how we as people that go through a lot more, we don't have a choice. And then there are other people that get choices like, oh, I guess I'll just, they're lucky enough to not have to deal with what we went through. You know what I mean? Somehow they'll see it as the same in their own distorted mind, but it is what it is. The reality is. The boy could never basically step out. He could never walk. He was stuck in a room because his dad was so paranoid about losing him because he was so special and he was the last thing that he had to him. And it ended up being a beautiful movie, actually, because the little girl ends up sneaking in the room. She gets him on his little, wheelchair. And she meets a friend in the garden. You guys will have to watch the movie to understand it all. And she ends up bringing the boy out there. She ends up getting caught. And she gets actually locked in her room. And when she does, she kind of throws a little fit. A huge fit, and starts throwing things. And when she throws this nightstand, these letters fly out everywhere. She reads these letters. Now the thing is that's fascinating is this little girl, her mom and dad died. And her mom's sister was this little boy's sister. Well, her mom died because she was so depressed. She ended up being basically mentally ill, because being really, really depressed is a mentally ill mind, right? That's why when people try to get away from being overly depressed, they can do the opposite and start kind of getting super territorial because they feel guilty over their own choices, or misfortune is what I just heard for some reason. But whatever. Which is not misfortune, but I guess technically the guides are the boss, so I'll just leave it at that. But whatever. Moving on. I suppose I might be thinking about it realistically to my life. Or whatnot, to each their own, My guides are like, well, maybe someone did something that isn't right, so they're opposite of you. I'm like, fine, I thought we didn't have any of those people. Oh, we do. And so something that was fascinating is her sister, so this little girl's mom died too out of depression, because she was so depressed that her daughter was depressed, or her sister was depressed based on other series of events because her sister was really sick. And the little boy got so mad when he saw the letters, because the little girl next day brings him and is like, you need to see this. You need to see how your mom actually loves you, because the dad had said the mom had ran away, etc., etc. Watch the movie. And he takes the papers and lights them on fire. So this property that they own is an estate. And I don't know if my family just sold an estate, so I don't know if you guys know what an estate is. Actually, someone I didn't even know. It was my grandma. She had like 6 kids in her family, and they were all introverts and super smart nerds. My grandparents are 2 Taurons, so 2 Tauruses that live the most boring little lives in the world, but they find it fascinating. But they are, they're amazing. I only can handle so much. But they're funny how they bicker This is an interesting life. But regardless, definitely not the way I live life. Very black and white, basic bitch essentials. Like, oh my gosh, I would die of boredom. But anyways, moving on. He lights these papers and they catch on fire. So the little girl realizes that it catches his curtain on fire. And he's obviously handicapped and he's going to get in trouble. So she basically takes this little boy in his wheelchair, right? Because that's where he was reading him and he was wheeling around his room. And anyways, he's out. So next thing you know, the family realizes the whole palace basically place is on fire. This place is fucking massive. Like, creepy. Like, why would only so many people live there? And not only that, why do they own those places when they're so cold? Like, they don't even have heat to do it, but that's why they had fires in the rooms. Anyways. And this dad is like so paranoid, like, where is my son? And she goes, he's not in the house. You need to come with me. So she brings him out of the house. He ends up going and seeing, long story short, and moving it forward. And he ends up actually seeing the boy stand up. The boy actually stands because he had found out about his dad. Then his dad hugs him, and it's this story. And of course, then the boy can walk, and then the dad's not paranoid. It's this huge, deep thing that somehow gets solved within a series of situationships. This little girl not allowing these just very abrasive, hard people that basically have all their guilt that weighs on their shoulders 24/7, and those are the same people that have all this guilt that have to project on people to try to have control, to control things that realistically they couldn't control themselves in the very beginning, so now they're doing the polar opposite. It's an act of extremism, basically. They're being extremists. It's like someone basically deciding, I'm going to get at you because you did this to me. There's no point. Or I'm going to find out because you lied to me. It's pure ignorance of needing to have the control of understanding something because you are not strong enough to just move around and or move past what is no longer good for you and or what is no longer just. In other words, creating the own justice upon yourself. So as people, we do a whole bunch of things. And to see this family that mentally tortured themselves based on sadness, it is something else. So the way that this little girl even ended up in this position where she was even able to talk to and soften her heart was she had this house maid, right? And this little girl was new to this house because her family had died and then she had to go get taken care of by her uncle in this huge estate place, okay? And when she was there, the maid said, she had told the maid that she had snuck into the room and saw the boy and said, that's the little boy that's crying at night. And the maid was basically like, you shouldn't do that. Why? There's an old lady there there's an old lady, if you watch it, you'll see she's just really grumpy, right? This little girl was a brat. Like, a brat would just throw a fit if she didn't get what she wanted. Totally entitled asshole. Entitled to a T. You know those people that are so entitled that it's like, yeah, you're perfect now, but if someone took away your house or this or this or this, you'd be a depressant your whole life. It's that kind of thing where they had absolutely no strength within themselves, right? It's all just strength based on the 3D shit that basically covers your mind and leaves no depth, and you'll mentally fuck yourself alive, or you'll ignore the way that people truly feel for the rest of your life and live in your own balloon, right? She talks to this woman and she is getting scolded for going in his room, and she goes, it doesn't matter anyways, he won't like me anyways, no one does. And this little girl had a problem where no matter what she did in life, there was always problems or confrontations. Her mom was a depressant, so she was depressed her whole life. Like, and her dad just said she was sick, which she is mentally sick, right? And then, she had to deal with basically having to lose, her dad was basically not able to be there all the time based on his own other shit or whatever excuses, right? So just people that make excuses, right? Even though the dad was a great dad, but he had to take care of everyone, everything, I think he was great, but whatever. So then This little girl has had to deal with no one but issues, right? No one but people basically to put him down, to dismiss him. I don't have time for you. For when they did have time. They didn't want to. They didn't want to. Why? Because the realistic point is those people were weak people. They were dealing with too much trauma and they didn't even know how to solve their own trauma. So to be able to balance it all to begin with is not going to happen. So this little girl grows up being submissed her whole life. So she had grown kind of abrasive, tough, bossy, like just wanted to fucking fight with anyone and anything just because she could. Just wanted to be a boss just because she could. Not literally a boss, but just being like the boss of controlling something. Because it was, in my opinion, her way of being able to act like she had power when in reality, no one would ever listen to her or cared about what she had to say. So she felt so dismissed that she then hit a point in her life where all she wanted to do is be heard. Or overcompensate, right? Because then you get the other side where you overcompensate and I'm not even going to go there because then you're going to get people that are going to be like, and it's like, yeah, well, you do have an issue. Stop ignoring it. Look at it. Period. Extremism would be being ignored and submissed your whole life and then catering to something else. So let's just say I was ignored my whole life and I had kids and then you do nothing but cater to the kids. You're not being the same, but you're being the polar opposite, which is still horrifying because those people end up being spoiled brats. You know what I mean? Like, same thing. No one ever understands the balance. Life is about balance, right? So this little girl went from being poor thing, which is probably super sweet, to being completely ignored, and now she's just like a raging bitch that no one even wants to be around, and she didn't want to be around anyone because they didn't want to be around her because she was an asshole, right? So it's the same kind of thing. You know how trauma works. And so the interesting thing is all this lady says to her is when she says, I don't know, it doesn't matter because he won't like me anyways, no one does, right? And she's trying to get pity, right? So she would be like, oh, but I like you, but the lady didn't. She says, because she's not she doesn't play the victim game. The little girl had to learn in life that people are not gonna. If you keep telling them the same thing over and over, a kid's gonna think that everyone's like you, and not everyone's like you, and thank God for that, or we'd have a lot more trauma, right? And the lady goes, yes, but she goes, yes, but do you like yourself? And then she looks and she goes, because if you like yourself, then it wouldn't really matter, would it? And then she just walks out of the room. And so this little girl is all alone in this huge palace thing, and no one to play with. If she does anything, the lady's yelling at her, the old lady, etc., etc. And so she goes out, finds a dog, and then there's the rest of the show, right? Which, since that lady said something, it made her realize, just because, I felt this vibe towards that guy or that little boy, that he didn't like me, that is probably just the way that I feel. Do you know what I mean? Based on how I see myself, which is recognizing how you see yourself is how others portrayed you as, or how you think others saw you, and or how others treated you. Okay? Right? Right. So this little girl realized at a probably age of between 7, 10, that if I don't think I'm that way, I can change that today. So I could go and bother that boy over and over and over. You know what I mean? And then eventually hits a point where someone draws a line, calls justice, and then walks away from a situation. Like, no, I'm sorry. We cannot repair this. And there are those circumstances based on things. But this is a new friend, right? So at the end of the day, she could go and hang out with him. What happens? They end up, bumping heads a little because they're both closed-off little victims based on their own individual trauma, which is mentally depressant parents, or one side of. And it hit a beautiful point at the end where this dad and his son, like the boy was walking, and the dad could enjoy the happiness that seeing the little girl is what helped create this. Without the little girl, this little boy wouldn't be as happy as he is. this dad wouldn't get this experience he had. But would the dad ever look at the person that's younger than them in any sort of way and give them any credit? Who would do that in this world? That would be literally an angel. You would have to be an angel if you could look at someone and say, you know what, I wasn't there for them. Thank you for being able to do that for me. Instead, what do? Usually it's like, well, I'm going to make sure that I just, there's just different things. We're not even going there, okay? But the guy was able to realize, the adult dad, that without this little girl, he literally wanted to die in the house, in the fire, and leave the boy by himself. So he was so mentally conflicted. This little boy would have had a huge inheritance. It doesn't even matter. He wouldn't have been alone, trust me. He was so mentally conflicted that it showed he wasn't technically conscious enough to be aware about what he was really thinking and feeling. And it wasn't until he could see the happiness of his son in an outside setting, actually within a garden, which was called the secret garden. It was a secret garden where his wife was at one time and actually died or was planted. Anyways, you didn't see the death. It was amazing to me because it was like, oh my gosh. And he didn't need to say anything, she didn't, it didn't matter. And they ended up getting this whole new relationship. And it made me realize this little girl had a second life, and this dad had a second life, and this little boy had a second life. And then the maid, actually, and her son. There's a couple maids in there. Anyways, watch the movie. It's amazing. Because all these people, the maid and the son of the maid, they got to see how this little girl, who was super bossy at one time, realized, if I become kind-hearted and relentless with love in a certain extent, right? Not obviously dealing with someone that does something malicious. Like, if I have someone that owes me my last paycheck, $1,500, then I'm not going to just forgive and forget. Do you know what I mean? Like, we're not talking about that kind of shit. Do you know what I mean? You can forgive, but you don't forget, and then you move forward and deal with what you need to do to get that. But it's kind of like one of those kind of situations, and I thought it was the most outstanding movie because this woman could see then not only how her mother's advice worked, because she was giving this little girl her mother's advice, to see these what were awful people on the sense that they were not nice. They're very overly emasculating and intimidating, which should explain why they're alone and no partner. Well, it's good they wanted to be alone because no one would want them anyways, right? No one wants an over-domineering person. And if you are that, would you want that? Period. Do you want someone that listens to you? Then why do you not listen? Or do you know what I mean? And then that's funny because the overbearing person, my guys are like, this isn't going to work because they're going to be like, well, I'm listen. And it's like, yeah, listen to talk. But moving on, I just thought that was beautiful because the card that you have it was in reverse, Scorpio moons and risings. It was, who are you? Who in the world are you? Getting to know the new you. In other words, there's something that's stopping this. There's something that's stopping that. Whether it's someone, here goes the crying again, whether it's you, yourself, or I. Whether it's someone that's told you that, whether it's multiple people, whether you've had more obstacles and everyone keeps trying to tell you what they should do instead of listening to who you are and what you do right. Do you know what I mean? That, oh my gosh, you guys, I did not come on here to weep. And I'm not promising more readings all the time, so please do not get all expecting, period. Anyways, Gemini might get a reading soon. I don't know. We'll see. But who are you is a personal choice that you have to make every moment of every day. It is not, I am a kind person. There's no such thing. Period. If you were a kind person, you would never have anyone leave you. Period. And if they did, right? Because if we get any sort of separations or, friends, we're never, by the way, talking about love. We're always talking about situationships, because that's what everything in our life is. And they all have to do with steps of grieving. Just like if you lost someone to death, because you do lose people. It is different, metaphorically, but the reality is it's the same. It's a loss within the heart. The heart sees no different. Just like when you're really happy or really sad, your body doesn't know the difference. It doesn't know, oh, she's sad, she's happy. All it knows is your heart is elevating or not. And that's what tells the body what you're doing. Some people don't know that, so I guess I should tell you guys that too. Regardless, sorry, I've been seeing so much shit lately. It's weird. I'm a little too psychic right now. It's part of the reason I'm not reading. I don't even want to talk about it. But I feel as though if that little girl would have gone the rest of her life and not met this woman, just like if you would have gone your whole life, maybe, without hearing this message, and we might still, right? If you continue to go your whole life thinking that you are a good, kind person, then what you're saying is, always are you nice, submissive, and non-abrasive, which is a lie. Because essentially, being a kind person, kind people don't create confrontation. They're never abrasive. If we really look at the word kind, it's all of that in a bag of just perfect butterflies and glitter. But in reality, that's not what we are. And that's not anything that anyone could be. Essentially the person that could be is, people that are beyond, right? Cosmic, right? Anyways, energy. Even if we're within that space, it is being kind within a space. You are not kind all the time, period. Therefore, you cannot call yourself kind. That is why we all go through different obstacles, different phases. Our personalities can go based on circumstances, events. That's why maybe some relationships don't work out based on traumas. Does that mean it didn't work out, that it wasn't healthy? I mean, my relationship, oh my gosh, I was in a relationship, remember, my long term, 8 years. Actually, yeah. First year, amazing. After the first year, we had, for the next 5 years, someone died every single year. My ex lost 3 jobs, based on trauma of sadness. Got a DUI at the last minute, which is great. I went 5 years being sober anyways, because just no purpose, actually. I just couldn't, based on, apparently alcohol just stopped liking me for a little bit of time. I still smoked weed though. That's actually why I started smoking weed. Actually, we went a year with not doing anything. And we did really good. Actually, it was amazing. Now that I think about it, we actually did we had a very healthy relationship until we didn't. And when I started working 7 days a week, traveling to different states, that's when shit started getting really bad, because I couldn't be kind and do the things that I loved doing when I was working so much and being so tired. But he also wasn't listening to anyone other than himself. Anyways, okay? Now, does that mean that I'm not a kind person, he isn't? No, we all have kindness in us. We all pick and choose what we want to do. Period. We all have good days and bad days. If people only project onto you what they feel, does that mean that is who you are? No, but what it does do is it impacts our kindness on how we feel and how we project. And then people stereotype us based on our projections, or maybe sometimes we have people that don't stereotype. But then we don't even recognize those people because of the fact that at the end of the day, then we feel guilty that they were able to do something that we couldn't do, and it's like this whole 3D dimensional fucking pathetic shit show. Instead of just saying, you know what, thank you for helping me with the hardest time of my life, and moving on, and letting it be what it is. It doesn't make us who we are. That didn't make them who they are. It became a learning experience of how we act in a significant amount of trauma. I understood how I'd act in so much trauma. It is unbelievable. Little did I know it would be through 10 years of my life, because I'm still on that cycle through other series of things. Do you know what I mean? But is that trauma me? Or is it what I had to experience to realize, fuck, I've overcame it. I'm still kind in ways because of it. And it allows you, in a sense, to realize if you truly weren't a good person, you'd become mean and abrasive and think these mean thought patterns on yourself, because that's what meanness is you think so negatively on yourself that you need to project onto others. Right? Right. Even though some of you don't think that, fuck off and watch someone else then. Bye, Felicias and hoes in different area codes. You were never asked to be here, and I pray to gosh you leave. Anyways. And then Alice says, I wonder what will happen next. Ready to adventure to the new space and perspective. Oh my gosh, it's like Alice knew I was gonna do this or something. I swear sometimes I don't really know. It's kind of creepy. I would love to see a reader that is this on it. We're channeling and reading, because I haven't seen one. I'd probably start paying them to do readings on me. Alchemy. That is one, actually. Alchemy. If you haven't watched her, feel free to. I will admit she's a channeler. So she channels kind of the way that I do, but I do different. Because I somehow confuse all of them together. And that's not for me to understand how. I'm just here to express my gifts. Because I don't even know if I can express how. I'm multi-talented and multi-confusing. So it says, I wonder what will happen next. Ready to adventure, perceptions, and pause before action. So the little girl could have immediately, right, not paused to think about it. And she would have stayed the same person. And always been abrasive, and never would have realized she was abrasive. Because I bet if someone said, you're abrasive, she would not think she was abrasive. She'd be like, no, I'm nice. Why? Because she still thinks she's a nice person and doesn't realize her actions that she projects. Why? Because wounded people hurt others. Wounded people create wounds. Why? Because if you're a wound, you don't know you're a wound. You don't know. Because in today's day and age, you're either nice or you're not. You're trustworthy or you're not. You're hot or you're not. You're cool or you're not. There's never a gray. And the ironic thing is energy is the gray. And that is what we're made of. Energy on top of energy that influences energy. Literally. Yet one perceived perspective is supposed to, in other words, you classify your rare individual self as one word. And I disagree. You are not just one word. You are a million words. Here we go. Okay? And I don't know who needs to hear this. Hopefully one of you does. Otherwise, I apparently just put out this movie just for myself. Oh my gosh. Now my nose is running and now I'm crying again. I don't know what is going on. I'm sorry, you guys. But you're many different things. And although it is important that we choose not to be ignorant, and we choose to realize, especially my earth signs, and my fire signs, and my water signs, and my air signs, Do you guys like how I did that? Okay? That you, it's gonna keep happening, you guys. You are amazing and you're unique. And it's not okay to become extremists based on situations, people, fluctuations, griefs, etc., etc. And to allow those things, those categories, to categorize you and put you in this box where you're just one word. And how would you explain yourself? Yours is kind, and mine for me is eccentric. Because that's what I am. Very eccentric. And that's okay with me. Because to me it's multi-purpose. And functional as well, right? But I'm not just one word. Period. What you've done and gone through your whole life has allowed you to be who you are today. And you can sit and think about your past and still be a decent person to the world, but still never give people the credit that's deserved. But don't ever be mad then if you end up dying and never get the credit that you feel like you deserve, that you need to hear to know about yourself. Because the reality is this is energy. And if you don't tell people how amazing they are to you, no matter who you are, I want you to tell everyone except for your kids and your partners. Because of the fact that those are probably the only people that you tell. Them and your parents. I'm sure you don't tell, your best friends. I'm sure you don't call them and be like, hey bro, I just want to let you know. I'm sure that's probably not what you do. The ironic thing is, if you did do that, you'd probably get an interesting response. Because at first, they'd probably be so shocked. Like, who the fuck are you? But I bet they're going through something. Sorry, I'm going to tear up again. This is the way it is, this reading, okay? They would kind of potentially, if they were a guy, end up being kind of like, what's going on? But the reality is, I guarantee, A, they're going through something. B, everything is heavy for everyone. And C, you've probably done something for them right then and there that no one has ever done for them. Besides their partners that they fight with 24/7, because apparently most people stay in toxic situationships these days. And B, their parents that control them and try to tell them what they recommend that they do, when in reality the parents shouldn't be leaving any recommendations, because as far as I'm concerned, I've never seen a parent that has lived a healthy enough life where they should give anyone any sort of direction. Yeah. But that's my own cup of tea when it comes to parents. But anyways. Okay? So, I want you all to remember, you are many different words. Many different flowers, I just heard. Many different types of beautiful, inspirational individuals. And not one person, not the whole world can tell you who they are. Because if at the end of the day they want to tell you who they are, they, of all people in the world, should be the one that listens to what other people think of them. Because the reality is people in this world, we do not tell each other who they are. We tell people what we've learned, or we tell people what we think they are based on patterns that we choose to recognize. And the reality is we're not in healthy mind frames or spaces. And all of us go through trauma and sadness and all of these different things. And if those people are to say that they went through these things and they were fine, then they're higher than a fucking kite, because that's not the reality of the world. That's not energy. That's like trying to say all energy is not relevant to the string theory. Guess what? The string theory is all energies somehow being intermixed with themselves, yet man can't fucking figure out how. Why? Because it's the one thing that man's not supposed to know. And that's what's so beautiful about it. And if you're still wanting to know what it is, then you know you're more 3D in a lot of ways. Unless you just like to understand things, you guys. Sorry for bawling. This is, little did I know I'm going to be on this little hot mess thing. I thought I was just here to do reading. But I really want everyone to know that. Period. You are loved. You are appreciated. You are not kind. You are fucking fabulous. You are sweet. You are smart. You is special. And you deserve a sticker. Just kidding. But make sure that you remember that. Next time someone's trying to. Also, please do not get mad at the other person. Also, remember, we do that out of fear. It's like an instant, you know, when your parents are kind of like my stepmom, you know, we don't always have time to let them know what's going on. And so sometimes people talk about things like that because it's the only thing that they know about you, because life gets so busy and crazy that we can't sit and talk to it and or about it, etc., and the list goes on, right? So many different things, and that's why they project those things. So it's not always that they have bad intent. So it's really important that we don't also like create this huge clusterfuck, like, you tried putting me in a box saying I'm this way. Because the reality is based on a series. The person knows, period, whether they did something right or wrong. And the person also knows that their choice creates trauma. And a quick I'm sorry isn't going to fix the trauma that they bestowed upon you so gracefully when they know. I mean, I got fucking molested, and then I still had someone literally Ghostbusters me and then went back to an alcoholic co-core that literally has done, what, nothing, can't do anything by themselves, and had their dad leave, but their dad is still alive and never It's just like shit show. People are always gonna do horrible, shitty things. But then the people that you choose to have around you, or did have around you, they didn't always necessarily, like the people that you're talking about, let's just say little things, not people that horrifyingly toxic. That is toxic. That's when the justice card comes and you need to just keep moving. I don't need an apology. You need to save all that energy for you, because you are a full-on fucking walking wound and I don't want anything to do with it. That's when you run. But the people that you have in your day-to-day constant, like maybe annoying roommates or husbands, wives, boyfriends, best friends, you know, partners, families, your fucking dog, I don't give a fuck, right? Your neighbor from the street, they're not mean. Like, the mean people that know are the people that know, like, knew that I had this trauma of being this loss, but they expected me to be able to handle it, but they can't do it. That is mean and unjust and period. I don't even want to talk about it. It makes me literally pissed. Because that person's just, I mean, that is the worst of the worst. That is a scum of the scum. Those people are just inflicting everywhere, and it's sad. But when it comes to your fucking annoying neighbor, that might, I'm just pointing, because our neighbors are technically over here. I guess I could do this, but I have a wall there. You know, they're just reacting based on their situationships, okay? And they're reacting based on a whole bunch of things. Look at our lives today. And it has nothing to do with, sorry, I think someone just came in the room. Obviously it's a ghost. Not ghosts, but the universe is like, now we're ghosts. Well, technically to 3D fritters. Anyways, and it's not a spirit, so I'm like, I'm trying to find a word. It's just a morbid thing. Sorry, there's a lot of chaos that just came in. Okay, pause. Okay, so just remember that, because we are all just products of what we go through. So we need to give each other a benefit of the doubt, okay? Do not ever give those shitheads that I told you about a second ago the benefit of the doubt. Walk the fuck away. If they need to talk to you again, say fuck off. You've had your time. You decided to stoop. Now you stoop on your stoop and have fun there. Leave me the fuck alone or I'll get a restraining order. P.S. I've already had one. Something like that. I don't care what you need to do for you. Okay? But remember, you are a million thousand things. And if someone wants to try to compartmentalize you, or if you're trying, worse enough, to compartmentalize yourself as one word, then recognize you're going to compartmentalize everybody around you with one word. One word. They're just one word. And you are. Is that a life of happiness? Or is that a life of Oh my gosh, that's no depth. I hope one realizes that too. But also, we don't always realize because we don't think and realize. Anyways, I'm a little too deep for too good, but I also can fly. So I like going down, 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 up, up. That's why we basically, yeah. I prefer to be up, up, up. But people make me go down, down, down. So when I'm alone, I go up, up, up. So I hope that helped. Be patient with yourself. Be kind to yourself. Be patient with others. Be kind to others. Love, understand, but do not listen to understand. Like, meaning you don't need to hear people to understand. You can just hug and understand. You don't need to make it this big dramatic deal. If someone does not like that or they're not like that, be patient or don't do it. There's no need to project on others just because you have an opinion that needs to be so abrasive and confrontational. Just like you don't need to bring it up if it's not expected or needed to be brought up. Balance is key. Okay? Mwah! I love you guys so much. Have a great day. Bye.